There was a night, maybe it was 2 a.m, maybe you were sitting on the bathroom floor, when something inside you finally, quietly, broke open. Not broke apart, broke open. And that night changed everything. There was a night. You probably remember it. Maybe you don't remember the exact date, but you remember the feeling. The air in the room felt different. The silence felt different. You were sitting somewhere. Maybe on the edge of the bed you used to share, or on the kitchen floor with your back against the cold cabinets, or in your car in the driveway because you just couldn't make yourself go inside yet. And something happened that night that had never quite happened before. Something inside you, some last stubborn, exhausted thread of the woman you used to be, just stopped. Not stopped loving, not stopped hurting, not stopped hoping. Those things don't stop that easily, do they? No. What stopped was something else entirely. What stopped was the part of you that kept making excuses. The part that kept saying maybe tomorrow will be different. The part that kept rehearsing the conversation where he finally understood, finally saw you, finally chose you. That part sat down, looked around at the wreckage of your peace, and said, very quietly, enough. This video is for that night. For you. For the version of you who was so tired she could barely breathe, and still found the courage to say enough. Because what you did was not small. What you did was not weak. What you did, even if it took years, even if you're still doing it right now, was one of the most extraordinary acts of self-love a human being can perform. So if it's late where you are, and you're listening to this because you needed someone to understand, I'm here, and I understand. More than you know. I need to say something to you right now, and I need you to really hear it. You did not stay too long because you were stupid. You did not stay too long because you were weak. You did not stay too long because some part of you enjoyed the pain, or because deep down you knew it was bad and chose it anyway. You stayed because you loved someone. Fully. Completely. With every messy, complicated, beautiful part of yourself, and loving someone like that, that's not a flaw. That is one of the most human things there is. You stayed because every time you started to find the door, he found a way to pull you back. Maybe it was a rare moment of tenderness that reminded you of who he was in the beginning. Maybe it was tears, his tears, that made you feel like you were the cruel one for even considering leaving. Maybe it was a slow, quiet erosion of your confidence so gradual that you didn't even notice, until one day you looked in the mirror and didn't quite recognize the woman looking back. That's not weakness. That's what happens when someone systematically dismantles your sense of reality. When every argument ends with you apologizing for things you didn't do. When love becomes a reward you have to earn back. When you start to feel genuinely grateful for the days he's simply kind. Think about that for a second. You were grateful for kindness. Basic human kindness. From the person who was supposed to love you most. You didn't leave too late. You left the moment your soul found enough solid ground to stand on. And that ground, you built it yourself, piece by piece, in secret, in the dark, while he was sleeping. Let's talk about the price. Not to make you feel worse, it's never that. But because I think sometimes we don't fully honour what we survived by naming what it actually took from us. Do you remember who you were before? Not in a nostalgic grieving way, just, do you remember her? The woman who laughed more easily, who had opinions she shared out loud without first calculating how he might react, who made plans with friends and kept them, who wore the things she wanted to wear and ordered what she actually wanted at restaurants, and took up space in a room without apologizing for it. Maybe she's been gone so long you've forgotten her face, or maybe she's been right there the whole time, pressed small and quiet inside you, just waiting. Staying cost you sleep. Real, deep, peaceful sleep. The kind where you don't wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart racing, replaying a conversation, trying to figure out what you did wrong. It cost you friendships, because you couldn't explain what was happening, and after a while it was just easier to cancel, to withdraw, to keep the chaos private. It cost you your voice, not just with him, with everyone. You got so used to measuring every word, softening every edge, making yourself smaller and quieter and less, that you started doing it everywhere. At work, with your family, alone. It cost you trust in yourself, because he convinced you, in 100 subtle ways, that your instincts were wrong, that your feelings were too much, that your memory was faulty, that the version of events you experienced wasn't the real version, and you believed him. Because why would someone who loves you lie about something like that? But here's what staying did not cost you. It did not cost you the part of you that knew. That quiet, stubborn, knowing part. She's still here. You're listening to this right now because she never let go. There's something I want to gently bring up because I think it might be something you're still carrying without realizing it. Gaslighting doesn't end when the relationship ends. It moves in with you. It sounds like this. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I'm the one who pushed him to act that way. Maybe I'm making it into something bigger than it was. Maybe I should have tried harder. Does any of that sound familiar? That voice, the one that keeps second-guessing your own experience, keeps softening the edges of what he did, keeps finding ways to redistribute the blame back onto you. That's not your voice. That's his voice, living rent-free in your head, still doing his work even though he's gone. Let me offer you a different frame. When you felt afraid to bring something up because you didn't know which version of him would answer, that was real. When you felt confused after arguments that somehow always ended with you apologizing, that was real. When you felt a cold drop in your stomach every time his car pulled into the driveway, and you quickly tried to mentally inventory what might be wrong, that was real. Your body knew. Your body was tracking all of it, all the time, running constant calculations for safety that no one in a loving relationship should ever have to run. You weren't too sensitive. You were appropriately responding to an environment that was not safe for you. There is a difference, and that difference matters enormously. So the next time that voice starts whispering, maybe I was the problem, I want you to gently, firmly say back to it, no, I was the one who kept trying to make love out of chaos. That was never my job, and it was never my fault. People talk about leaving like it's a single moment, like there's a dramatic scene, a packed bag, a slammed door, and then freedom. But you and I both know that's not how it actually goes. The real moments are smaller and stranger and lonelier than anyone tells you. It's the moment you're in the grocery store and you reach for something you like, something you stopped buying because he didn't like it, and you stand there in the aisle for a full minute just holding it, not quite believing you're allowed. It's the moment you wake up on a Saturday with absolutely nothing to dread, and you don't know what to do with that feeling because peace has become so unfamiliar it almost feels wrong. It's the moment a friend makes you laugh, really laugh, that deep, unguarded kind. And then it's followed by a wave of grief so unexpected it knocks the breath out of you, because you realize how long it's been since you felt that free. It's the 2 a.m. moments when you miss him. Not him, exactly, but the idea of him, the beginning of him, the version that made promises, and you feel ashamed of that missing like you shouldn't want someone who hurt you, like missing him makes you foolish. You are not foolish. You are human. You loved someone, and love doesn't just switch off because someone turned out to be unsafe. Grieving the relationship you thought you had, even while knowing it was toxic, that's not weakness. That's the most honest thing you can do. All of these moments are part of it. The complicated, non-linear, sometimes 2 steps back reality of healing, and every single one of them is valid. Every single one of them is you, finding your way back. I want to speak directly to the part of you that is still, even now, even after everything, asking yourself if you overreacted, if you made it into something bigger than it was, if you're too damaged to see clearly, if maybe, with a little more patience, a little more grace, a little less of your own needs, it could have been different. I want to ask you something. If your best friend, the one you love most in this world, came to you and described a relationship where she felt constantly on edge, where she never quite knew which version of her partner would show up, where her feelings were regularly minimized or dismissed, where she felt more alone inside the relationship than she ever did outside of it, what would you tell her? You would hold her hands. You would look her in the eyes. You would say, without hesitation, that is not okay. You deserve better than this. So why is that woman you love so completely not allowed to be you? When did you start applying a completely different standard to yourself than you would to anyone you cared about? When did your comfort become less important, your safety less urgent, your happiness less worth protecting? You did not overreact. If anything, for a very long time you underreacted. You minimized. You rationalized. You shrunk your pain down to a size that felt more acceptable to everyone else in the room. Your feelings were correct. Your instincts were correct. The thing you felt in your chest when something wasn't right, that was correct. It was always correct. You just weren't given a safe enough environment to trust it, but you can start trusting it now. That's the work, and you're already doing it. We have this image of courage, don't we? It's bold and loud. It's the dramatic exit, the perfectly worded final speech the moment you walk away and never look back. But I want to tell you what courage actually looked like in your story, because I think you've been missing it. Courage looked like you, staying in a relationship that was hurting you, still showing up for your kids in the morning like the world wasn't ending, still going to work, still calling your mum back, still functioning in a life that secretly felt like it was dissolving. Courage looked like the night you finally let yourself admit, just to yourself, in the dark, that something was wrong. Not to him, not to anyone else, just to the ceiling of your bedroom at 1 a.m. That was courage. Courage looked like the first time you told someone what was really happening. Maybe your voice shook, maybe you cried, maybe you said it all, and then immediately started walking it back, but you said it. For the first time, you said it out loud. That was enormous. Courage looked like the 100th time you tried to leave, even when the 100 times before had all ended with you back where you started. Because trying again, getting back up, believing that freedom was still possible after every failed attempt, that's not failure. That's extraordinary persistence. Courage looked like surviving the aftermath, the loneliness of it, the second guessing, the days when you picked up your phone to call him and put it back down, the days when you didn't, the slow, uneven work of rebuilding a life. You have been courageous this entire time. You just didn't call it that because it didn't look the way you thought it was supposed to look. I'm calling it that for you now. What you have done, what you are doing, is brave. It is so, so brave. I want to talk about her for a minute. The woman you're becoming. Because she's been there this whole time, you know. She didn't disappear when he made you feel small. She just went quiet. She pulled back into the safest corner of you and waited, with more patience than you'll ever fully appreciate, for the moment it was safe enough to come forward again. She's the one who started saying no to things that didn't feel right, even when she couldn't fully explain why. She's the one who started making tiny choices for herself, choosing the restaurant, making the plan, keeping the appointment she almost cancelled. She's the one who looked in the mirror one morning and thought, not with arrogance, but with a quiet, growing certainty, I deserve to be loved well. That woman, she is phenomenal. And here's what I want you to understand. The version of you that is emerging from this, the one who has been through something genuinely hard, who has survived confusion and manipulation and heartbreak and self-doubt, who has had to relearn her own worth from the ground up. She is not damaged goods. She is someone who knows things other people don't. She knows what she will and will not accept. She knows the difference between love and performance. She knows the quiet sound of someone making themselves small, because she used to make that sound herself. She knows how to feel her feelings without running from them. She knows herself, and that is a gift paid for at enormous cost. But it is real, and it is yours. The version of you that comes out of this, she is not who he knew. He never got to meet her, and honestly, that's his loss. His extraordinary, irreversible loss. I'm not going to tell you that healing is beautiful and linear, and that one day you just wake up and everything's fine. You've heard that version, and you've probably felt a little cheated by it. Here's the real version. Healing is confusing. You'll have days where you feel so free and so clear and so completely yourself that you'll feel almost guilty about it, like maybe you shouldn't be this okay. And then the next day you'll be in the cereal aisle, and a song will come on, and something will crack open in your chest, and you'll cry in your car for 20 minutes for a loss you've already grieved 100 times. Both of those days are healing. Both of them count. Healing is a Tuesday where nothing happens but you realize you haven't thought about him until 4 p.m. And then you notice that, and you sit with it, and it feels like the tiniest, most significant victory of your entire life. Healing is having to tell the story one more time, to a therapist, to a friend, to yourself, and noticing that this time the story sounds a little different, a little less like your fault, a little more like something that happened to you rather than something you caused. Healing is getting angry, really angry. Maybe for the first time because for so long you weren't allowed to be angry, or you directed all the anger inward because that felt safer. And now it rises up, and it's uncomfortable and messy and you don't quite know what to do with it, but you let it be there. And that anger, that's your self-respect knocking on the door. Let it in. Healing is not a destination, it's a direction, and you are already moving in it. It's late, isn't it? That's okay. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I want to leave you with something to carry for the hard nights, and there will still be hard nights. Not as many as before, and they'll get shorter, but they'll come. And on those nights, I want you to remember a few things. Remember that choosing yourself was not selfish. It was survival. It was the most loving thing you could have done for yourself, for the people who love you, and honestly, even for him. Because a relationship held together by one person's constant self-erasure was never actually love. It was just you, disappearing slowly, calling it devotion. Remember that the loneliness you feel right now is not proof you made the wrong choice. Loneliness after leaving a long relationship is normal and expected, and has nothing to do with whether you were right to leave. You were right. The loneliness is just the gap between where you were and where you're going. It won't feel this wide forever. Remember that you're not too broken to be loved again. Not by someone else. We'll let that unfold in its own time, but by yourself. Right now. Tonight. You're not too much, or not enough, or too damaged, or too late. You're a woman in the middle of her own story, and the middle of a story is not where you judge the ending. And remember this, especially on the nights when the second guessing gets loud. You survived something real. You fought for yourself, even when every message you'd received told you that you weren't worth fighting for. You found your way back to yourself through something that was genuinely designed to make you lose her. And here you are, still here, still searching, still open enough to be sitting with a stranger's voice at midnight because you needed to feel less alone. That is not broken. That is the most alive thing I have ever heard. You're going to be okay, not the same okay you were before, better, deeper, more yourself than you have been in years, I promise you. The night you said enough? That was not the end of your story. That was the very first line of the part worth reading. Before I let you go, I need to say one last thing. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are thousands of other women listening too. Women in different cities, different time zones, different stages of this exact same journey. Some of them are still inside the relationship, lying awake trying to figure out how to leave. Some of them left last week and are shaking with the newness of it. Some of them left 3 years ago and are still untangling the threads. Some of them, like you, are somewhere in the beautiful, difficult, holy middle. None of them are alone, and neither are you. There is a whole invisible sisterhood of women who understand exactly what it means to love someone past the point of your own well-being, and to slowly, painfully, courageously choose yourself anyway. Women who know the particular exhaustion of emotional hypervigilance. Women who know what it feels like to rehearse a conversation for days before having it. Women who know the strange grief of mourning a relationship that was hurting them. You belong to that sisterhood, and it is strong, and it is kind, and it is full of people who would hold your hand through this if they could. If this video reached some part of you tonight, the part that needed to hear that it was real, that you weren't crazy, that you were brave, that you're going to be okay, then please know you're not the only one. Leave a comment below, even just a word or an emoji, so another woman scrolling through at 2 a.m. knows she's not alone either. Because that's what we do. We find each other. We sit together in the dark, and we remind each other that the light is still there, even when we can't quite see it yet. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are going to be okay. Good night. If this video held something you needed to hear tonight, please subscribe so I can keep showing up for you. Leave a comment below, even just "I'm here"